Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. Here's a black woman, and she's not pro-Kamala, and listen to what she has to say.
So the DNC, the GCCC, and the Democratic Party all actively forgoed a primary process, and they were telling us that Joe was ready to go. Even though you and I both knew that Joe probably hasn't known what day it is since about 2022. And now we're expected to support Kamala Harris, who, mind you, is not only a member of his administration, so an active participant in what is going on in Gaza, but she's also a cop, a prosecutor who ruined a lot of black families in California. She was actually so unpopular in her home state that she had to drop out of the 2020 race prior to the voting because she kept coming in 5th place in all the polls. So no, I will not be supporting Kamala Harris. I don't care how much they black girl magic her over the next couple of months. I will not be supporting Kamala Harris, and you shouldn't either. Democratic nominees are voted for. They debate. They actually go through a real primary process. Kamala Harris did not do that. Joe Biden didn't even do that. And I want to be very clear that when Donald Trump wins in November, that it is because of the fact that the Democratic Party, the DNC, and the DCCC have decided to forgo democracy because they do not actually care about upholding democracy. Anyway,
so there you go. I mean, those are some great points.
Yeah, big shout out to Afeni. That's my RBN sister, Afeni. I did a lot of work with her. She does a lot of amazing activism every single day, so it's great to see her spitting knowledge at facts and fire. And she's 100% correct. There's literally no way you can get the black community to support Kamala. And Democrats are the victim of their own anti-democratic agenda. They canceled the primaries. They forced Kamala Harris down our throats, and now they're paying for it. No one's gonna vote for Kamala Harris. It's going to be such a massive landslide. We see how Trump and GOP run against her. If they paint her just by highlighting her policy, I think that would be enough, and that will expose her for being a traitor to our people. It's not. We would think Trump would do better. It's about getting people who are part of the Democratic coalition staying home. I think Kamala Harris is the person that would do that.
Well, Trump actually did better by black people in prison when he was president. So I'm not a Trump voter, but that's a fact you can't deny. And that's why a lot of black rappers actually are publicly supporting of Donald Trump. And that's why he's getting 22% of the black vote now. His percentage of the black vote has gone up, and Joe Biden's has plummeted. 31% drop in support from black women, according to the polls. So there's a reason for that.
This is a great time for third parties, especially with all this chaos, especially with an opportunity to build an anti-genocide coalition, because we have both parties as corrupt they are right now, and we have such a democracy that is fraudulent, especially on one side, especially we have con artists on the other side. Now is the time to advocate for workers' policy. Now is the perfect time to push for a third party now that our duopoly being exposed as the fraud that it is. I'm greatly enjoying this. Like, this is a great time to cover news. We should be greatly enjoying the chaos and the ruling class expose themselves as the authoritarian anti-democracy agents they paint their enemies as. Well, go ahead, Jimmy.
I just wanted to reinforce what we've been saying. Here's even the Daily Beast is on to her. Kamala Harris's Attorney General's office tried to keep inmates locked up for cheap labor. She was ordered to reduce the population of California's overcrowded prison. Lawyers from then California's general office made the case that some non-violent offenders needed to stay incarcerated, or else the prison system would lose a source of cheap labor. That's from her office.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court ruled that California's prisons were so overcrowded that they violated the Constitution's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. 3 years later, in 2014, the state was ordered to allow nonviolent second-time offenders who have served half their sentence to be eligible for parole. But by September 2014, plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit were back in court, accusing California of slow-walking the process, which lawyers for Harris' office denied. According to the court filings, lawyers for the state said California met set benchmarks and argued that if certain potential parolees were given a faster track out of prison, it would negatively affect the prison labor programs, which allowed them to fight California's wildfires for $2 a day. Anyway, so it's horrible. This incident is just a small part of Harris's long career as a prosecutor, which has drawn scrutiny from Democrats and activists who describe her as a latecomer to the social justice movement. As far as I know, she did very little, if anything, to improve the criminal justice system when she was Attorney General. Don't forget that Kamala Harris was laughing about imprisoning parents over their child's truancy, and that it disproportionately affected already oppressed populations. Let's listen.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco.
But it is funny.
And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my reelection race. Wow. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it.
So she started to...
Yep.
Wow. So here, this is great. This is a mural of Kamala Harris, and it's a mosaic. I'm sorry. It's a mosaic of Kamala Harris made out of the black men she kept in prison beyond their sentences to use as free labor for the state of California.
Yep.
So
she also fought she withheld evidence that would have freed an innocent man. And she fought to keep an innocent man in jail just so they can continue to use his labor. But go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's to me, that is stunning. And that this is the angle that Trump should go at her. But first of all, he's going to win anyway. She's the most unlikable. She's another Hillary Clinton. She's completely repulsive to most people, including black people. So she doesn't have a base. She doesn't have a base. This idea that her base might be suburban white women again, but that's it. Anyway. So let me throw it to Steph, and I'm going to set up one more segment about Kamala.
Oh, all right, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Oh, I had a conversation once with a friend, and we were talking about, and Nick, I'm kind of curious what you think, but I was talking to a girlfriend, and I'm like, well, she's not African American. Her family was from Jamaica, and she also moved. I did know that she had moved to Canada. I did know that. I think after that first debate when she said, I was one of those children in the bus, Joe. But so what should I say? Or is it even a conversation, Nick, that you think anybody should have about, is it more class? Is it more of a class issue with Kamala?
You stole the answer right from my mouth. Because I was about to say, more than anything, not only did she have no experience with the African American community, she's outside our class. Mm-hmm. Like she's been a part of. She slept her way to the top. She was a prosecutor, so it would be different. I know it may be hard to understand, but if you was around the black community, you grew up in the black community. Let's say you're mixed. You marry someone black and you guys have black children, you'd be part of the black community, and there'd be debates and all that stuff. But most important is class and where you stand. She was nowhere near in our community. The closest she got in our community was locking us up. That's why saying that she's black is absurd. And the class element is a giant part of it as well, because as I mentioned before, she's not part of our class as well. So
right. I agree. I do think it's more a class issue than her heritage, if anything. It's a class, and then her class of being a prosecuting attorney, and then she was in lockstep with all of Biden's legislation that he pushed through. He might say in 2019 he regretted it, but the fact of the matter is she was right there prosecuting, using that legislation to, convict, young men, young women, and hurt them for generations. Ultimately.
Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com.